Hey there, I am back with another deck review, and today we're going to be looking at Meadowlark playing cards from Meadowlark Pharmacy. This is the first time I've ever seen a deck that was produced for a pharmacy, but that's exactly what we've got here, and the journey to get here is a pretty interesting one. It starts back in 2018 when pharmacist Jonathon Lamarque decided to open up his own pharmacy with a friend of his in Hickman, Nebraska, called Meadowlark Pharmacy. And while he was working there, he kind of got into a habit of doing simple little card tricks for some of his customers, just as a way to keep people entertained and happy. But through that process, he also fell in love with the cards themselves. And like so many of us, fell headfirst into the world of collecting playing cards. A natural kind of outcome of that was that he wanted to produce his own deck of cards. So he kind of came up with this idea of producing a promotional deck for his pharmacy. He reached out to a designer by the name of Jonathon Gray. Jonathon, at that point, had never really done much work with playing cards, but you have probably seen some of his work since then. He actually is responsible for the majority of the design on the Star Wars deck with Theory11. So he's since kind of blown up in a big way and has sort of exposure in the playing card industry, but Meadowlark was sort of his first foray into it. Now, in working through the deck of cards and the design, they started out with what was going to be a really simple, just lightly customized deck. Just thinking like custom tuck and backs, jokers and aces. But through working through the design, they really kind of got excited and enthusiastic about it and decided to turn it into a full custom deck. That turned into a Kickstarter campaign, which of course was successfully funded, and now we have the decks. So let's jump into it, find out how they did. All right, starting out with the tuck case. It's printed by Close Street Press. They do some of the most beautiful tuck cases. Most of them are done in letterpress, which is a beautiful embossing technique. And it's done on this yellow matte stock. The yellow comes from the Meadowlark bird that inspired both the name of the pharmacy and the deck. And sort of their color scheme. Really nice color, just pops out beautifully with that black ink. You have the name of the deck, Meadowlark, as well as when the pharmacy was established in 2018, and then lots of elements throughout that sort of combine the birds and the pharmacy together. So in the center, you have an image of the bird in a field of tulips, and you'll see as I kind of turn this in the light, little hits of white and copper foil just accenting really nicely on this. As you look around the rest of the deck, you've got little nods to the pharmacy, including a circle of pills bordering the Meadowlark in the center, as well as little elements in the corner, including a mortar and pestle and a bottle maybe of medicine there in the corners. So very nice. Love the patterning on this. Just a very clean and almost retro modern design. Turning to the sides, you've got Meadowlark playing cards on one side and on the other. Some ad copy on the bottom. You can see Russ Gray mentioned, as well as Art of Play, who helped produce the deck, and the website for Meadowlark Pharmacy. On the top, just says Meadowlark Pharmacy, established in 2018. And the back's going to be the back design of the cards, but with some added foiling and embossing. But we'll look at the details of that in a second. You do get a custom postage stamp style tuck seal. Just features copper and black with a couple of head-to-head Meadowlarks featured in the center. So you open up the flap, you get "Have a Healthy Day," nice fitting motto for a pharmacy, and then silhouettes of that Meadowlark on the inner flaps. Nothing printed on the interior of the tuck case, but it is a really beautifully done and embossed tuck case. Nice job by Close Street on that one. All right, getting to the cards themselves, and here is the back design. More really vibrant pops of color with that yellow against the black. It's a really great color combination. You have that Meadowlark making an appearance again, this time seated in a field of tulips, as kind of reflected in the two-way back design. You have the banner in the center that says Meadowlark Pharmacy. I'm not a huge fan of putting words onto the back design of the cards. I think it kind of distracts from the overall look. This isn't too bad, but I could have probably done without the banner. And then lots of almost random borders of dots and circles and lines, forming a series of borders, finishing out in a nice thin white poker border. You do have little elements as a nod to the pharmacy with the 4 pills in the corner there, but it really forms a nice back design. I love how much that yellow pops out. It's a really interesting, bright, and vibrant color to use on this one. And that does it for the back design of the cards. Let's take a look at some of the extra cards. We'll start with the 2 Jokers. Really simple design. According to Jonathon, this was one of the hardest cards to design in the deck, but I think they landed on something really nice. Just has that retro modern look again of the Meadowlark, and just a reflected image of that Meadowlark sitting in a field of tulips. I love how much color pop you can get out of a really simple color palette. It's just black, white, this red, orange, and then the copper metallics. Really nice use overall, and like how they turned out. Very simple Joker in the corners. So there's your 2 Jokers. You also get a pair of Gaff cards to go with this. You get a double backer and a blank facer. And that brings us into the deck, and we'll start by looking at the 4 aces. Now, the power ace is going to be, as you usually see on a deck, the ace of spades. Has a nice view of that Meadowlark with the tail forming the base of the spade. And then the background is this nice 2-tone with the yellow and black. Again, nice use of that simplified color palette, and those metallic accents really get set off nicely in this. I have the name of the deck, Meadowlark Pharmacy, at the bottom, and then nice, slightly custom but very familiar pip and index in the corner. The other 3 aces do not disappoint either. They're much simpler, but I think just some of the most adorable aces I've seen. They do feature the slightly larger pip in the center, and then each one just has a little tiny yellow Meadowlark playing around the pip. So there's one kind of picking at a piece of food, or the one perched atop the club, and then one sitting on the heart. Really cute aces. Love what he did on those other 3. So those are the aces. The number cards, there's not too much to say about them. They're fairly standard. You do get a slightly custom, in my opinion, a little bit more modern looking pip in the center, but otherwise not too much to say about these. The black cards are classic black. The pips are arranged pretty standard. And then the red cards, the only difference here is they're maybe a little bit more orange than your classic deep red. So kind of keeping with the red-orange that we've seen on a few other parts of the deck. So that's all I can really say about the number cards. There's a quick look at the clubs and then into the hearts. So that is the number cards, but let's take a look at the quartz next. And the quartz are a really interesting part of this. So remember, these originally were not intended to be part of the overall customization of the deck. It was just going to use recolored bicycle quartz. But in deciding to redesign the entire quartz set, I wanted to keep it very inspired by those bicycle quartz. So they're definitely modeled to look a lot like the quartz, but obviously completely redone. The artwork is custom. Each one of them is going to have little implements that reference the theme of the deck, whether it be the pharmacy side or the Meadowlark, the bird side of it. And they're recolored in that same color palette we've seen before. And it really pops out beautifully on this one with those red, orange, the yellow, the copper, the black, and the white as the primary colors. So you can see there some of the implements, like the Jack of Spades holding the mortar and pestle in his hand, or the Queen of Spades with a little tiny pill there pinched between her fingers. The other really interesting part of this is that 2-tone effect that's done on all of the court cards. I really like what's done there. It almost gives the look like one half of the face is shaded, but you got half in yellow and then half in white. Really nice effect. That might be a little bit more polarizing. I can see how some people might not be crazy about that look, but personally, I think it looks outstanding. And the rest of the quartz kind of follow suit. So there's the diamond quartz. Again, nice little touches you can find everywhere, like the bottle around the Jack's neck or the little tiny pill there in the Queen's hand. And then you'll get the Meadowlark making his appearance on some of the cards, like sitting on the King's arm there. And then there are your club quartz. One of the Meadowlarks in nice copper metallic there in the Queen's hand. And last but not least are the heart quartz. And of course, you get a nice classic suicidal king with the Meadowlark in his other hand. So really nicely done on the quartz. I'm a big fan of those. I think sometimes I like big over-the-top custom quartz, but I also like a really well done, classically redesigned quartz, and that's what these are. So that is the deck. Overall, I think a really well executed design. Personally, I wish the pharmacy aspect of it had been maybe played up a little bit more. It felt a little bit more like a bird deck with pharmacy elements kind of brought into it, little tiny bits here and there. I would have loved to have seen the pharmacy side of it amped up just a little bit more, but that's kind of nitpicking at what I think is an overall great design. Now, as handling of the cards, they're printed by USBCC and they handle really nicely as we've come to expect from them. Fans really smoothly, cuts, all that are going to be really great out of the box with these. Just par for the course from USBCC. It's done on a nice thin stock, which I suspect is the influence of Art of Play in the deck. They like to use that really thin stock. Makes it really great for cardistry. Now that gets me to uses of the deck. Personally, look, this is a tuck that would look great on any collector's shelf. So of course, as a collector's deck, it's going to hold up nicely. But for me, this is a deck you're going to want to break out and use. Gameplay, I think, is going to be really where it's at for this one. Nice standard, easy to read pips, easy to recognize quartz, but it's also definitely functional if you could use this for Magic, for cardistry, anything you wanted. Just a deck that you're going to want to get out and use so you can really enjoy how vibrant and beautiful those cards are. So that's it. That is my look at the Meadowlark playing cards from Meadowlark Pharmacy. Congrats to those guys. I'm looking forward to see what they have in store in the future. I know there's an entire line of other decks that kind of mix birds and medicine in together. So I think it's going to be a really fascinating journey to see what else they can come up with. So hope you enjoyed this look. Make sure you subscribe for more deck reviews and unboxings and let me know what else you want to see. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you for the next one.